on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise. This is your 10-minute warning. The transatlantic links are good to go. In 10 minutes' time, we shall be speaking live to Dr. John Ratey. So many questions to ask, so many answers to provide you. So wherever you are, stay right there, put the kettle on. In 10 minutes' time, we are live with the Dr. John Ratey, Professor of Psychiatry, author of Spark, answering all of your questions. Stay right there. And to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. The COVID-19 pandemic has made us all think about the importance of sport and exercise on our health, on our mental health. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. It's something we should all be thinking about. Well, everyone here at the Aspire Zone in Qatar wants to lead and to be a part of that conversation. In February, Dr. John Ratey, the author of Spark, will join us to talk about his book, which has explored the benefits that sport and exercise can have on our brain. We'll have more information on all of our Aspire Zone social media accounts. Hello and welcome. Wherever in the world you're watching today, we are delighted to have your company for this, the inaugural event of the Aspire Speaker Series. We're also delighted to be partnering with Qatar Foundation, who provide an array of inclusive opportunities and recognise that adopting a healthy lifestyle can benefit us both physically and mentally. For more information on how to participate, you can download their new app, Qatar Foundation Education City. So, the big question today, just how much of an impact can sport and exercise have on our lives, both physically and mentally? Well, our guest today is a Harvard professor of psychiatry, the author of 11 books, including the international bestseller Spark. We are delighted to be in the company of Dr. John Ratey today, joining us from his home in Hawaii. And I suppose it's very fitting that we speak to you this month when we've already seen National Sports Day in Qatar, we've seen Children's Mental Health Week in the UK, and after a career studying this, Dr. John, can we now say definitively that these two things are interlinked? Sport, exercise, and mental well-being?
Absolutely. I think the evidence is overwhelming, and it keeps coming in from countries all over the world. Just a tsunami of good scientific studies showing that various aspects of well-being and cognitive, mental, and emotional health are all improved by our movement, our physical activity, movement, sport, exercise, all kinds have an effect to make us better humans.
Should we go back to the very beginning? This has been a career of study. Where did it start? When did we start to realise that the power exercise could have mentally?
Well, when did history start? I mean, it started with Hippocrates, 300 BC, who wrote in the first medical textbook, when people came in and said, "Hey, I'm depressed," he would say, "Go for a long walk." And they come back and they're still depressed. He said, "Keep walking, keep moving to change the mood." My own light bulb came off when I was in medical school, and we had just got our antidepressants, which were magic drugs. They were game changers, and everybody was using them to treat depression. So this hospital in Norway wrote this paper about people coming in, and they were either given an option of taking an antidepressant or getting into an exercise program that they developed. At the end of their time there, everybody got the same degree of better. They improved equally. So it was something that cemented in my mind that exercise had such a powerful effect on mood and our whole brain function.
Dr. John,
it was brought home further Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I read Spark, and I hope you don't mind me saying, absolutely loved it. The first chapter had me, and I know it's the study in Naperville, Illinois, about the school children, the one that really got me, that by doing exercise to start your day, you could actually prove that children would perform better at school. It's probably better if you tell the story, but it absolutely blew my mind.
Yes, it blew my mind too. That's why I wrote the book. I was already talking about it for 10, 20 years about exercise, but when I heard about this school, which had, huge number of students in their school district who they tested their BMI, their weight and height, and found that only 3% of them were overweight. And not one of the kids in their 7,500 kids in their 2 high schools were obese. Well, this was something, because at that point in the US, 33% of our kids were overweight. Today it's 37% of our kids are overweight. But they had changed their physical education program to focus on fitness first. So they had kids running, playing running games, doing some calisthenics, doing some weight training. And what they found that the kids were really much more fit. And by the way, their grades were so much better. And in fact, they took the International Science and Math Test, which every country takes every 3 years. And they came in they could take it as a country. And they came in number 1 in the world in science and number 6 in math. That got me on an airplane to see what the heck was going on there. And I fell in love with Naperville, and it led me to write the book Spark, because here was something, 19,000 kids strong in their school district were among the brightest and the most fit kids in the world. And all they had was a 45-minute a day period of exercise, focused on fitness mainly, but they learned sport along the way. But first it was to get their heart rate up, to get more fit as the semester went on.
And that's what got me. I could probably have hazarded a guess that if children all did 45 minutes of exercise in the morning, they would get fitter. That's logical. But to actually academically improve their performance to such a level, a grade, whether it be a percentage, it was a good figure, wasn't it? It was somewhere up above 10% better performance. And that it almost went against what you thought would be academic theory. You'd think to perform better in class, you should do an extra 45 minutes of schoolwork. But to achieve this by doing exercise, I mean, that's revolutionary, isn't it?
It was to me, and it is to people who read the book. All the media people that came to see me after the book came out and were on their way to Naperville, I would tell them, you will want to die and be born again so you can go to school at Naperville. And all of them came back and said, you're absolutely right. They couldn't believe it, because there you were in the high school and the junior high school, all the different school systems they had there. And the kids were ready, they were up, they were motivated, they were fit, and they were really smart. And so this is something that, everybody who contacts me after reading the book, they want to say, can you make Naperville in China, in Taiwan, in South Korea, or in Qatar? Can you do this? And the answer is it takes a village. It takes a lot more than just wishing, but you have to really get everybody on board. And so now in Naperville, it still persists. They started this in the end of the mid-90s, okay? And it still persists. Every day the kids are exercising, but and yet they are among the AA+ school system in Illinois. And in fact, they only spend the median amount on schooling, and yet they're at the top. So it doesn't take, it's a way of increasing their educational prowess. And now now we know, we think we know, we're getting to know exactly how this happens. We know from all the studies that have come in, and it started really looking at how do we prevent the onset of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease as we age. And that's where it started, because people didn't know that exercise was such a potent way of preventing the onset of our brains going away and getting worse. And it was amazing. In the end of the 80s, there was a big study that one of the great neuroscience people from University of California was part of, and they looked at over 12,000 people and followed them over a few years to see what prevented the onset of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. And what they found were three factors. One was ideal weight. Two was continuous learning. And three was exercise. Well, we knew about the first two. We did. The third, when exercise, though, everybody said, what? Exercise has this power? So this guy went back and he researched it with a bunch of mice, and he found that the mice that he had running in the running wheels at night had gained 50% more intelligence in 7 days to a week and a half. And their brains, and he could look at their brains. Their brains were bigger, they were thicker, their brains had changed. And they measured this substance, which you already are familiar with, BDNF, or brain-derived neurotropic factor. This was brain fertilizer. And it elevated 2 or 3 times normal. And so just by running in the running wheel, which they happen to love, these little mice, and it made this brain fertilizer more available to the entire brain.
You're probably giving me too much credit there, Dr. John, because before I read your book, I had no idea what BDNF was. But the big question, I suppose, is why? Why does this happen?
Why it happens is this, and now we know, okay, BDNF gets released to when your brain cells fire. And then it sends back information to make more BDNF. So when we discovered BDNF in the 80s, and since then everybody's saying, how do we make more of this stuff? Because this prevents brains from eroding, from depression, from aging. How do we make more? It helps us be smarter. It helps our brain cells grow, and that's the way we're smarter. Our brain cells have to be active. They have to be growing to grow in the new information. And BDNF is a brain fertilizer, and I called it miracle growth for the brain because it truly is. And so what we know is that if you're using your brain cells, you're making more of this stuff. That it's sort of evolution's gift to us. The more we're using our brain, the bigger it gets, or the more fit it gets, just like our muscles. So we look at the brain as a muscle. When we use it, we love it. I mean, it loves being used. It doesn't like not being used because it erodes, just like our muscles.
So to follow this down its natural track, should the smartest people on the planet be Olympians, sportsmen, that type of character?
They often are. Not the smartest people. It doesn't take away from heritage, from other genetic issues and parental issues and societal issues where people grow up. But they will have the capacity, if they also foster their intellect, to be among the smartest people in the world. But, so many of our athletes only are thinking of their athletic and lose out on the richness of their culture and education because that's all they're doing. That's all they know. but they can still be very, very with it, very, very smart. And people ask me all the time, well, what about the dumb jocks? Okay, you know, you know, these dumb guys that are, you know, knuckle crawling idiots that they're made to be. However, I say to them, look, just think how dumb they would be if they didn't exercise. You know, they would just be, you know, 2 levels down from that. But we see this in our super athletes and all of our professional athletes. When they're in training, when they're fit, they are really keen. They are really smart. It's when they stop, they get in trouble. Like Michael Phelps is our example. You know, he had attention deficit disorder as a kid, was put on medicine, but mom also started him swimming. And after a while, the swimming 3 to 4 hours a day, both he and his mom said, we don't need this medicine. He didn't. And he didn't until he stopped training. You know, after a few gold medals or a few Olympics, then he'd get into trouble. He got in trouble because he wasn't exercising. He wasn't fit. So his cravings and his mood changes and all that took over, and he got into real trouble. So,
which makes sense. Actually, I was reading your social media, your Twitter last week, and you had a piece on there that even just the smallest amount of movement, just fidgeting in class, can help stimulate your brain. But that would go against everything any of my teachers told me. When you're in class, you're told, stop fidgeting, concentrate.
Right. But now we say for kids who need to do that, we have teachers being informed. Have the kids stand up and walk around the classroom in the back, or stand up and have them engaged in a way that's positive rather than negative, rather than don't do this, but do this, and it's okay to be doodling, it's okay to be fidgeting, but you might do better by standing up and moving around when you need to, as opposed to being in jail in your seat in a classroom, which is the typical way.
You wonder why every school in the world isn't doing this.
Right. Well, there are surprisingly a lot of schools are beginning to pay attention to this. For instance, one of the things that's taken over in the last 10 years is standing desks. You know, standing desks in schools, because it helps when you stand, you're turning your brain on. You have 7% more brain function is firing away when you stand as opposed to sitting. So when you stand at your desk and you're taking notes, they found that the notes are better. They're more engaged. Students are more engaged. Their grades go up a bit. So the schools now are getting these standing desks and knowing that it's okay for kids not to be sitting, you know, on their bums and you know, trying to stay good.
We're just talking about children here. Does this translate to later in life? I mean, when we go into the office every day, would we be better off starting our first 10 minutes of the day doing a lap of the office? Should we be standing more rather than sitting at the desk?
Yes, we should have exercise snacks for the coffee hour, coffee break. It should be exercise break. And some places do that. In the U.S., in Silicon Valley, a lot of the big companies do that. They have gyms in their building, you know, for their employees. They reward people for spending time moving, whether it's coming to work by biking or by walking or running, or during the work time, they're being paid to exercise. We're starting a study in Texas with 550 officers that are police and fire to exercise for a half hour each shift. They're being paid to do that. And we're monitoring this and hopefully seeing changes in their intellectual capacity, but also mainly in their psychological ability to withstand the trauma. They're all in the midst of trauma all the time with the fire and, ambulance services and as well as the police, obviously. So we're really looking forward to that. But it's a way of engaging the brain and training it and getting it better.
And you said there, you talked about half an hour. Is there an optimum level? Is there a peak? I mean, the more exercise you do, does your brain function more and more? Or is there a level when you can't go up any further? Or I suppose what I'm really trying to say is, what's the least amount of exercise we could do to get the maximum benefit mentally?
That's always the first question that after I lecture to a group of people, they ask, well, what's the least I have to do, because, to get the maximum benefit? Just as you asked them, there isn't a number, but even with 5 minutes in like in the classroom or at work, a 5-minute what we call brain break. You're turning your brains on by exercising, by walking up and down the stairs, by going outside if you can go outside and walk around, or running, or doing yoga poses. Just moving in some way will get your brain going. And there's not a minimum. I mean, if all students, for instance, would do 5 minutes of jump rope before they sat down to take their exams, they'll do better. They'll do better. This school in Naperville, for instance, when they're taking their big exams, they have 15-minute breaks, and they're not just standing around or getting on their cell phones. They're dancing through the halls to loud music that they can get into, because this helps them get calmer, get more focused, all the things that exercise can do.
This information, I can only assume right now, is so pertinent. You think of where the world is right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, and so many countries have been enforcing lockdowns, people stuck inside their own homes, obviously for their own safety, but we know, or I presume we expect there to be effects on mental health once we come out of the pandemic. Is exercise going to be the cure, the fix to that once the world moves beyond COVID?
I think in many, many ways. There was a big article today, lead article on NBC News about the incidence of attention deficit disorder in COVID has gone way up, 77% increase, which is amazing. Why could this be? Well, because kids are confined, they're not in school, they're not with their friends, they're not moving around as much, and they're just on the computer all the time, and this leads to problems with attention. But the antidote is to move, and the antidote is to get to use the computer, because so much of our lives are driven by the computer now. But to use it in a very positive way. There's tons of good information and good training videos on YouTube or wherever, throughout the web that are free, that are there. I do a 10-minute kettlebell with Chi-Chi every morning, and I get up and it's fun, it's good. And I feel I'm part of a group already, and he doesn't have anything to do with me and doesn't know me, but I'm doing it, and it wakes me up, it gets me going, it gets my muscles going, and I get ready for the day and go off and do more stuff. But it's something that we really have to take advantage of. And kids, there's lots of videos, lots of information, lots of leadership, people doing things that kids can follow along on the web. And it's I work with a group called Go Noodle, which is just dancing for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, just moving for that little bit of time. And kids love it. They love it. And they get into it. And this turns their brain on. It turns the brain on because we know when we're moving, we are using more brain cells. And here's a factoid. We're using more brain cells when we move than in any other human activity. And why is that? Because the brain evolved to have us be the best movers that we can be. So a lot of our brain stuff evolved around movement. And so when we're moving, we are turning those brain cells on. We are using them. And and those brain cells help us think, help us remember, help us plan, help us organize, all the things that we really need to do as humans. We turn those brain cells on, we make them better, we get them ready.
If we have people watching now, if they are at home, if their children are homeschooling and it's becoming a bit stressful, it's a bit difficult, is the answer take a break and let the kids just go and do 15 minutes of exercise and they'll see the benefit in the performance when they come back?
Absolutely. Even 5 minutes each class. Instead of, start with 5 minutes or middle of class, do 5 minutes in calisthenics, push-ups, jumping jacks. I like squats, because it's simple to do and easy to do. And kids can do this. They can enjoy it and they look forward to it. And in the classroom, many schools have been doing this and finding that it pays off such dividend, because you see a decrease. The first thing we did is see a decrease in problem behavior, in disciplinary problems, a decrease, because they had movement involved in before their classes, as well as being more focused.
Given all of this that we've spoken about for the last half an hour or so, are we over-medicating as a society anywhere in the world? Are we too reliant on drugs or medication for smaller problems that could be fixed, cured by exercise as opposed to drugs?
Exercise. If you live a healthy and a well lifestyle, if you follow the tenets of wellness, which are exercise and connection and sleep and a good diet, and by connection I mean having friends and being involved with others. Those are the tickets to health and well-being, but also the tickets to avoiding psychiatric problems or having to go to medicine. Now, I'm not against medicine at all. I mean, I'm a psychiatrist, prescribe medicine, always have, but you don't need to all the time. You can find ways of improving the person's mood, their resilience, their managing their stress on their own. And so you don't need to turn to an antidepressant or a stimulant. I say a bout of exercise is like taking a bit of Ritalin, which is our stimulant, and a bit of Prozac, which is a bit of our antidepressant. It does the same thing in the brain as these drugs do. It elevates our neurotransmitters that our psychiatric drugs aim for. So, yes, can we offset the need for that? Sometimes.
I must get so many phone calls every week from pharmaceutical companies who don't really appreciate what you're saying, but education boards around the world must be listening to you thinking, this is gold, this is the answer.
It should, and it does, and where you have very informed people, and people that have read my book or read other stuff and know the literature. For instance, well, I have all kinds of story about Asia, because they believe in science in Asia as opposed to the U.S., which some people do obviously believe in science, but they're, people who believe in what they have been taught. But in Taiwan, for instance, President Ma read Spark. He was president for a long time of Taiwan. He called me over, had me lecture at 11 universities, and interviewed me on Taiwanese TV. And this caused a big change in their culture. It became, he wanted to make Taiwan a sports island because he was a triathlete, okay? He was a triathlete, so he was into sport, right? But he was also a Harvard Law School graduate, so he wanted me to come over, which was fine, and we became good friends. And the year after that, my wife and I got married in the highlands of Taiwan, which was amazing because we had a second conference on All Asia Conference on exercise and on Spark, basically. We had people from all over the world, and it was great. And we had 800 professors from everywhere coming to hear the one and a half day lecture, and it was just fantastic. And it helped change the culture. You know, and it takes something like that, something like you're interviewing me and getting out there because you're a star and people know you. And if we, you know, if you were LeBron James in the US, you know, it would also have an impact. But so, you know, I think one of the questions is, well, how do you begin to affect change? Well, you need that kind of vehicle. You need people to pay attention and to hear it and to say, oh, this really works. And in Spark, I tell you why it works. You know, I mean, as best I could at the time, but it's still pretty good in terms of being accurate. But now we have all the even more information and more conclusions that support what we put forward back then in 2008.
I can honestly say that's the first time I've ever been compared to LeBron James, so I like you even more now, Dr. John. How important is it that we enjoy our exercise? If we're almost forced into it, do we still get the same benefit, or does this have to be something we want to do?
No, the best thing is to find something that people like, the person likes, okay? That's an important part. I mean, people always say, what's the best exercise? Well, you know, what should I do? You should do something that gets your heart rate up, because your heart rate is a measure of how much muscles you're using, which is a measure of how much brain stuff you're using, your nerve cells, and something that you enjoy because you'll come back to it with somebody. It's better to do it with somebody, whether it's a team or just a small group that you're walking with or running with or biking with, or playing, you know, little games with, and something that's challenging. If you want the best benefit, something that's challenging for you to do so that you continue to improve, and best, of course, is to add in some coordination challenges, like in your sport, soccer. It's one of the best ways to make your brain the best, because it's doing all those things. It's getting the heart rate up, meaning you're using your brain a lot. You're having to think, you're having to plan, you're having to work with a team. So you're having other information that your brain is on fire with, right? And it's fun, and you get better. And there's, you know, the competitive urges come out, and, you know, and that carries you away.
How much of this are we talking purely about children, young people? Does all of this work equally as we get older in life? If exercise can improve us as we're growing up, can it also prevent then the decline later in life? You've mentioned already Alzheimer's, dementia. Can it prevent memory loss? Can it keep us sharp as we get into later life?
Yes. For the first 10 years after the mid-90s, when there was this big revolution of the study with the mice, it was all about Alzheimer's. It was all about prevention. It was all about studying how the brain was preserved with exercise as we age. And if you look at all the anti-aging recommendations from people, number one on all their list is exercise. Number one, not 10, one. It's the most important thing because we have so much evidence. In 2011, the Mayo Clinic in the US, Department of Neurology, reviewed 1,600 papers on exercise and its effect on cognition, on thinking, on learning, and mainly about aging and keeping people from aging. All of them, I mean, their conclusion was it was enormously positive. It was all positive, that if you exercise versus people that didn't exercise, you were smarter, you were better, you had less cognitive decline. And what we know, we have all kinds of numbers. If you start exercising, if you're middle age and you haven't exercised, but you begin and you stay with it in middle age and on through, you will prevent the onset of cognitive decline by 10 to 15 years. That's huge. That means you won't lose your thinking, you won't lose your memory, and you'll cut your incidence of Alzheimer's, getting Alzheimer's disease in half. And in Qatar, I know, because I studied up a little bit about it, you have a lot of obesity and diabetes, right? Well, exercise is the best way to deal with that chronically, long term. You want to lower your weight. You want to lower your sugar because that is a killer for nerve cells. In fact, there's one big group in the US that studied Alzheimer's disease for many years that they call Alzheimer's diabetes type 3. So that it's such a powerful lead car in leading us to develop Alzheimer's disease. So you really got to get the weight and the sugar under control. And the best way to do that is diet, of course, diet, but exercise. And that helps you, it improves your insulin receptivity and all the kinds of stuff that we know.
Absolutely, and you're right, and it's something that in Qatar as a country, it's taken so seriously now. There was even earlier this month, National Sports Day, everybody being encouraged to go out and do something, to whatever your sport being. But you know, I hope you don't mind me saying this, 72 years of age, I hope I'm as sharp and as fit as you are when I'm your age. And there was a little bit in the book that really got me, and there was it was a chapter, and it was a page that just struck me that said stress can actually be good for you if you can manage it. Do you want to explain how that works?
Well, yeah, no, I spent a lot of time talking about stress because I was so amazed by what we knew. That the only way we grow our muscles, or our brain cells, or our bones is to stress them. Stress means challenge. Stress really means doing more than what's normal. That's what stress is. So if we do that on a regular basis, what we do is we build up within the cell what I call the janitorial services of the cell. We build up more antioxidants. We build up more enzymes that help correct problems within the cell. We make the cell tougher at the cellular level, and especially in the brain. And so we need stress to, what we do is we build up these resources and we overshoot the mark, but that's good because when you're not stressing, you have this capacity to deal with stresses. Just like I talked about our first responders and police and fire in Texas, we're trying to stress them with the exercise so that they'll be able to withstand the stresses on the job that they're going to get inevitably later on.
Because we also know, and again, something you talk about, isolation causes stress. So going back to this year we've all had with the pandemic globally and so many people having to isolate, trying to take a positive spin on that, looking forward, Do you think the world will emerge a better place once we move beyond this COVID-19 pandemic? Is there a chance it makes us stronger?
I think so. I'm hoping so. I certainly have been feeling it from as we're getting to with the vaccine and everything. I think we're, the first plague, the big plague that we knew about in the 1300s, that was the beginning of the Renaissance. After the plague went away, then we had the Renaissance. It's possible we're going to be in that same dynamic, the same historical switch. So yes, but you mentioned isolation too. Isolation is horrible, and it is anti-wellness. The two most important things to keep a person well is movement and other people and connection, what we call vitamin C. It's so important to us. And those two will really make for a healthy person. So you need to encourage that. And yes, and we're isolated like hell in this pandemic, but we do have Zoom. You're talking to me, 6,000 miles away, and we're connected, and that's great. And we should make use of that and get people connected and keep people connected.
Sorry, do you feel like the world is listening, is taking notice that we are seeing the start of a change, a new renaissance?
I do. I think so. I think it's starting. Yes, I can see. I mean, just in my life, but I'm just being bombarded with people all the time about exercise and what we need to do and how we need to change and how we need to emerge from this so that we can have a better life. And also, what we're also learning is that we don't need a lot of stuff. This is what I tell people. We don't need a lot of stuff. We just need each other and something to live within and all. But we don't need all the kinds of stuff that we thought we needed before. And I think that's happening everywhere. I really do. In every country, realizing that we don't need all these possessions as much as we want, in the past. And, we'll see. That's so ingrained in us. But yeah, when's the last time we went shopping for a tie even, it's just like, we don't do it. We don't need it. Anyway, that's my own little soapbox.
No, I could sit and ask you questions all day. I'm very aware we do have a limited amount of time. We have about 15 minutes left with you. So very important that we just say to everyone watching now, if you would like to put your own question to Dr. John, absolutely get in touch with us now in the chat rooms, whether you're watching us on the website, on Facebook Live. Drop your questions to us and we'll put them to Dr. John in the last 15 minutes or so that we have. We've got one in already from Aziz. Let me just go to this, John. Aziz wants to know, do you think that governments are overlooking physical activity in schools globally still?
Yes, absolutely. But not in Asia. That's what I'm saying, what I mentioned. Asia got it. So it's returned to the past for Japan and for South Korea and now China. They're getting the message. So they're doing more and focusing more on physical activity, physical health than they ever did before, than they've done recently. They're really switching. And I've worked with those countries and seen what a result can be. But you need people at the top to be into it, to believe it, to lead the way.
Hear from Grace Moore, who was listening in when we talked about about Alzheimer's in particular, and she would like to know, is there any specific scientific evidence that you can touch on that links exercise with the slowing of early onset Alzheimer's in particular?
Yes, there's lots of studies. I can't name them for you, but if you just go to Google and find and put that in, and it will come up with a number of studies right available to you. But the answer is yes, because what exercise does, it causes your cells to be more resilient. It causes your cells to be more alive, and it works against the Alzheimer, erosion that happens. So it builds up more of this BDNF, which you mentioned in your notes. That's why I said you knew about it. But that's anti-Alzheimer fertilizer that keeps your cells growing and not eroding.
I suppose the follow-up to that is there may be people watching today who are suffering with Alzheimer's or who have relatives suffering, and it almost becomes where you almost blame yourself. Maybe I didn't exercise enough, or you're thinking you've done the exercise, you've been fit and healthy, and you've still got Alzheimer's. Would the answer to those sorts of questions be, had you not done the exercise, it would be worse?
Absolutely. And my advice to them is think about from now forward, not backwards, not what you didn't do, but what you can do. And there's a book written now about 4 years ago, was a bestseller, called The End of Alzheimer's Disease. It was a neuroscientist who studied drugs and genes and everything about Alzheimer's for years and years and years. And then he said, look, this isn't going anywhere. What we need to do is be healthy. And so he went and came up with his own anti-aging platform, and talked about reversing the Alzheimer's in some people, getting them back to work even once they had the disease, and continuing to improve with his protocol. But a big part of that was exercise. And also with exercise and connecting and diet and sleep, all those are so important to keeping our bodies and our brains healthy.
And keeping with that theme, Rita Abu Faisal has got in touch and would like to know, what if someone begins exercising later in life, say after 50, if they haven't done it up until that point, is it too late to have the positive impacts on your brain function?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. I have slides when I'm lecturing of this one guy who was 80. He was 80 years old. His wife died. A year later, his son died. He went to the doctor because he was depressed. And his doctor said, start running. Well, he became famous because at 100, he finished the Toronto Marathon. At 101, they filmed him in Hong Kong, finishing the Hong Kong Marathon at an age of 101, and that was his last marathon. But, so from 80 on, he had never exercised, never. But he began, and Mr. Singh, and he became world famous, by just plodding away and doing it in a very balanced way, but then just continue to push himself. So you can do it, and you will get the benefits, absolutely get the benefits for your brain.
Fantastic. What about this one from Zachariah? Would like to know if there are any particular sports that he should be doing that are better than others for mental well-being, and if so, what should he be doing?
Yes, well, I'll give you the best. Believe it or not, probably the best is dance. Dance, okay, where you have to pay attention, you have to sculpt your movements, you have to listen to music. Your brain has to be so keyed in to what you're doing. And you have another person, and you're getting your heart rate up, and you're moving your muscles, a vigorous dance. Along with that is martial arts. the same thing. It's the same deal. When you're moving and when you have to worry about, when you're training your balance and your coordination, and you're having to learn new and different moves, and you have to really focus on them, that really makes your brain work, and the brain loves to be worked.
When you mention dance, see, straight away, that sets my heart rate going with pure anxiety, the thought of having to dance where somebody else can see me. What if you can't dance? What if you are dreadful? Can you still get the benefits, or are you going to counteract any benefit you've got by the fact that it just sets you off in sheer fear?
Get a partner that you can do it off camera, so no one watches you. No, I'm not saying everybody dances, but I'm saying that it is a very good way to really challenge your brain maximally. And if you're too embarrassed, then it's okay. It's like me. When my daughters see me dance, they go crazy. They say, "Dad, stop it," because I embarrass them. But I'm enjoying, I don't have the right moves, certainly, but I get out there and enjoy myself quite a bit. So, but yes, if you're too shy, do martial arts. A lot of shy people are doing martial arts.
I'm not too shy, I'm just too bad. Anyway, we're digressing. What about this from James Ross, who says, Dr. John, I loved Spark. How did you get into this field of research to begin with, and why did you choose to dedicate your life to it?
Well, the story goes this. I told you my first introduction was in medical school, and then I began to really pay attention to attention deficit disorder in adults, and began to talk about it in around after I graduated from training in the early 80s. And this professor came to me and he said, "Can I come and visit you?" And he came in, and he was a very famous professor, both at Harvard and MIT. I had 2 of his books, so I knew the guy, or knew his work. He said, "Look, my whole life I've been a marathoner." This is in Boston when the marathon was going crazy, right? I've been a marathoner, and I've been very productive. Well, I hurt my knee about 6 months ago, and I'm still not back. I'm still rehabbing it. It was a bad injury, and so he said, "But I have all the symptoms of someone with attention deficit disorder. I can't pay attention. I get distracted. I get angry. I fly off the handle. I don't finish things. I lose stuff. I lose my place. I don't know why I'm going into a room." That never happened before. Never happened. So I treated him with medicine and he got better. But then his rehabbing started to work and he started running again. He didn't need the medicine anymore. So that started me on 2 passionate careers. One in attention deficit disorder, which we just finished our 4th book last month on ADD, and then on exercise. And they cross over because exercise is a great way to help treat ADHD symptoms. Just as I said, it really makes your focus better. So both of these have been my passion in life and what I follow. That's how I got into it.
Well, here, this is quite specific. This is from either Sebastian Simon or Sebastian Simeon. He would like to know, are coaches able to develop specific areas of a player's brain, and what can they do to develop a different specific area of the brain? What sort of tools should they be using?
Well, it depends on what they're after. I mean, I think in general, I think we don't spend enough time, whoever the coach is, enough time on balance and coordination. We just assume that that's going to come. But that's something that, all the good coaches and your friend Tom Brady spends a lot of time doing, right? Is balance and coordination training to make sure that that's part of the part of his armor, that he has the weapon of being balanced and coordinated. And he really needed it, right? Tom Brady. But, but he worked at it. And this is one of the great things about balance is that you can train yourself to be more balanced and be more coordinated. But in other areas, yes, you can help. The coaches can focus on it. One of the things that I have to mention, because you're a soccer country, is that there's a friend of mine, Tom Beyer, has a whole series of information about, it's called Soccer Starts at Home, with little kids. You ask, people want to know, well, what can I do with them inside? Well, he says from 3 to 6, they shouldn't be using a big ball. They should be using a little ball in their living room or dining room, moving it around, and so that they can master it. And then they go up on the size of the ball over time. But this is the way they learn to keep the ball on their foot. And then when they get out on the pitch, it's a whole different world for them. And then they can be like Messi, or...
Hey, do you know, that's one of the things I find doing the job that I do now, to watch these people work and to see their methods. It's a slight tangent, but you remember the great boxing trainer, Freddie Roach, who worked with some of the greats all time. And one of the things that amazed me, seeing him up close, was that he never got his guys to be doing gym work. He never had them lifting weights because he wanted them to think, even in a sport like boxing, he wanted them to be able to be sharp up here. He said, that's the key. Not having muscles, not having that physical strength. And the proof was there. I mean, the number of world champions he coached, which I suppose ties in with everything you've just told us.
Yeah. There's all kinds of ways to achieve that, but it takes it over and over and over and over again to practice. You got to do it and think it and cement it in your brain.
From Hassan Khan, he'd like to know, Dr. Ratey, a lot of what you've mentioned concerns exercise, but is it possible to counteract the benefits of exercise on the brain if your nutrition and your diet is poor? Would that then cancel out the benefits?
Yes, not necessarily cancel out, but not make it as vibrant as it would decrease the impact. When diet is huge. If you have a lousy diet and full of carbohydrates, it's going to be trouble for you to get more fit. Absolutely. So it doesn't cancel it out, but it has a part to play. So you really want to do it all together. And one of the nice things about exercise is that it helps you have a better diet. It really does. It decreases your cravings for the bad stuff. If you're fit, if you exercise in the morning and spend time doing it, your cravings will be less for that donut or for the Starbucks, whatever. It will be less. You'll be, because we know that when you exercise, it satisfies those cravings and keeps them from ruling you.
Brilliant, Dr. John. We might have time for one more, I think, here. This is Rita, who says, medication is supposed to have an impact on the mind and brain. What are your thoughts? I know you've touched on this slightly already, but what are your thoughts on using medication as a way to control? I presume Rita's talking about things like depression, anxiety, ADHD, substance abuse, all those kinds of things. What are your thoughts on medicating rather than exercise?
Well, no, not rather. I always encourage my patients and tell them about the benefits of exercise on depression, on anxiety, on ADD, and tell them what they can do. But if they're in desperate straits, and medication will be something that I definitely will use. I definitely will use medicine. It's not a problem. It's to make people good enough to maybe take their lives into their own hands, and they're not just driven by the mood or by their anxiety or by their panic and or by their ADD, and they can get their life back together and then hopefully press onward to to develop a healthier lifestyle, because that's the source of all wellness.
Just be able to squeeze this one last one in from Martin, who would like to know how much of all of this is socio-economic. How much does your background involve Or how much does it affect the results you get out of this?
No, that's a very good question, and it does. But let me tell you, from working in the schools, where we worked a lot with the underprivileged kids, underprivileged schools, and we brought in exercise, that had the biggest impact, way bigger than the higher socioeconomic kids, because it helped with their discipline problems. It helped them pay attention. It helped them be more positive. It helped them deal with their anxiety and their post-traumatic stress that a lot of them had, if they had a steady diet of exercise. And so you see in the underprivileged areas of the country, in the U.S., some of the places are using exercise as a vehicle to get the kids ready and able to learn better. So yes, it is a part of the socioeconomic. It's important in everything, but being able to make a choice, have a coach, have the shoes, all that stuff is important, and kids with not the socioeconomic means, it's a problem, but it doesn't take all that much to get moving.
John, absolutely fascinating to speak to you. I don't know about everyone watching, but I just feel like I want to get my shirt, tie, suit off, get the athletic gear on just to go and do something athletic today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone watching for your comments. Really appreciate it. Dorothy, Anthony, Norfar Hospital, thank you so much for your comments in the chat rooms. For Dr. John, really appreciate your time. It's been absolutely brilliant. I can't imagine anybody who's watched this doesn't feel like they're going away, not just having learned something, but just taken so much on board. We will have another one of these coming up at some point in the next 6-7 weeks or so. Anyone who missed this in full, it will be available to watch in full now online if you'd like to do so. But from all of us here at the Spy Zone, Dr. John, just thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Anyone who hasn't read Spark, I can truly recommend it. It literally opened my mind to something it's so obvious, but something that it is literally life-changing if you can take it all in. So thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed spending time with you and with your with the comments from people. That's great. It's wonderful. Wonderful to be part of your life. So thank you.
Well, I'm sure not as much as we've enjoyed just sharing this time with you. So for us, that is a wrap. Thank you everyone for being involved, and we look forward to doing it again soon. Bye-bye.